Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing today? I just noticed that I always put my hand on top of my head when I talk on Periscope. What's up with that? So, is anybody at work? And is anybody dealing with difficult people? Workers are losers? Alright, for those of you who are at work, if you're at work, tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind that's bugging you. But here's the trick. Don't think about things that you would normally tell somebody. Think about your private thought. You know, the thing that just bugs you, and you never tell anybody about it because of that. It just bugs you. And you think if somebody else heard your complaint, that they'd think it was petty. It's not that early. Why don't I own this place? No raise for 2 years. You get to bribe people to cover your shifts. I like that one. Bribe people to cover your shifts. Boss, you have to do it at work. Alright. Bribe people. Co-workers with a bigger office. Okay. Office size. A decent coffee machine. Are you older than everybody? Getting shit on for doing extra work? So, tell me about getting shit on for doing extra work. You can see her. But explaining your job to your supervisor. Do you suggest, I like this, suggest eliminating a coworker's job. Eliminating coworker's job. So you want to see a bad tool? Drug testing. The real work. So this is the new Apple iPad. I'm using it to sketch. So it doesn't work nearly well enough that you could actually draw on it. I just use it for writing down some ideas. And here's why it doesn't work. And I can't believe that this product is even released, working with this Apple pen. When you draw, the line doesn't start. The line doesn't start as soon as you do. There's this little delay that might not come through. And because of that delay, you can't really draw anything. Because the pen always blanks out for the first part of your line. And I read that apparently that's just what it does. It's actually designed that way. And it's not the software I'm using, as far as I can tell. I used several different drawing softwares. But this thing is designed and marketed for drawing. And it's literally the one thing you can't do with it. You can't write. See this sentence? That was me trying to just write in a natural way with this pen. It's completely useless. What did I use before? Well, I've never had anything that worked as well as I wanted it for traveling. For at home, I use the Wacom Cintiq, which is an amazing device. So that's my primary tool. Wacom has a portable one that would be good if you had smaller jobs, but it doesn't work for what I do because of screen size. The Surface works really well. On the Surface, though, if you touch a stylus to it, not a finger, but a stylus, do you get an immediate mark, or does it have a little bit of a delay? Because it's the delay that makes the iPad useless. iPen and iPaper rock. So iPaper, it's media. Bikini balcony chick. She's sleeping. Reuters has 4239. Yeah, polls are sort of all over, aren't they? Why is it interesting that Nassim Taleb follows me on Twitter? Go to Best Buy and see. So it's with the Surface, you mean? Maybe I will. I just didn't want I didn't ever want to have a Windows machine again. I am not watching the Olympics. WikiLeaks is coming up soon. People are saying a coup might happen if Trump is elected. Is that because Trump's people are the dangerous ones? Hey, do you remember, hey guys, listen to this. Do you remember the violence caused by the Trump supporters recently? Remember all the terrible things they did? I don't. Imagine having all these rallies with, I think I saw one that looked like it was 50,000 people. Probably wasn't, but, if you've got 30,000, 50,000 people, wild, rabid, and everybody's telling us racists, why aren't any of them dangerous? What's up with that? Like, where are all the Trump supporters just looking for trouble? Why do we never see that? The party we're most afraid of. Am I wrong? Has there been any violence that I don't remember? In Ferguson and Baltimore, when was that? I mean, oh, just realizing that was that sarcasm. Sorry, sarcasm doesn't work so well on text. Poll on temperament. Well, isn't that convenient? Somebody decided to do a poll on something that makes Trump look bad. But I'm sure they're doing a poll on crookedness to make it even. Yeah, the news today was that Trump brought on the group of hypnotists who got Brexit passed. I call them hypnotists, but they're scientists probably, or at least people who are using science, cognitive science, to influence people. Still on vacation? This is my first vacation in 3 years. And it's a short one. Paul Joseph Watson's videos could take her down. Are those the ones with there's a narrator talking about her health problems? Funny what a girl can make you do. Yeah, they do that. Gerard breaks all the office rules. The British guy, yes. I don't know. Did you see Trump's tweet today? It was that I think he called her crooked, was brainwashed, and then he said, "Look it up." Think of that. Trump's tweet was that Clinton was brainwashed, because something about her short circuit, her own words, that her brain short circuited because she was making fun of, being called a robot. But was she making fun of being called a robot? Or did somebody just throw that in there to make it not look so bad? Did the media throw in the robot part? Or did Clinton clearly and intentionally make fun of the reputation that she's a robot when she said short circuit? Anyway, think of Trump's persuasion in his tweet. If somebody can write it here so that the rest of you can see it, that'd be great. But the key part of it was when he said, that she's been brainwashed, look it up. No, he said look up brainwashed. Now, why would he call Hillary Clinton brainwashed? The beauty of it is it's so open-ended. Yeah, look up brainwashed. So what exactly did he mean by brainwashed? The beauty is it probably has lots of different meanings depending on what information you've been exposed to and where your starting point is. So, but how many people do you think actually looked up the meaning of the word brainwashed? Because I did. As soon as I saw the tweet, I was like, why do I need to look this up? But then I looked it up. And you know what's really good persuasion? Making someone do something. I just realized, I thought of it before, but I hadn't put it into words. So here's one of the strongest methods of persuasion. It's well known. This isn't something I'm making up. That if you get someone to do something small for you, such as pass me the salt, can you do this? Can you watch for somebody? Very small stuff. And people do it. They just start feeling comfortable doing things you tell them to do. Because all the other things you told them to do worked out okay. You passed them the salt. They said thank you. You got some appreciation. You were useful. And you can sort of talk people into doing bigger things. So the more things Trump asks you to do that you actually do, no matter how trivial they are, such as look up the word brainwashed because he asked you in his tweet, the more times he can get you to do that, the more likely, far more likely, he will be able to get you to do something bigger, such as vote. Think about it. And by the way, this is backed by science. You know, you could do your own research. But and salespeople use this technique. It's well known. If you get somebody to do small things, they'll do larger things. Also, when you let people in on like a secret or you act like somebody's in your inner circle, then they start to feel like they are. And the way Trump talks is like he's your friend. You know, who would say look up brainwashed as a politician? It's just not politician talk. So it has the effect of making you feel like he's talking to a friend. And he's left it, kind of open-ended. Brainwash, what the hell? I don't even know what that means. Like in the context of this election and Hillary Clinton, what could that possibly mean? But here's the brilliance of it. At the same time that I don't know what it means, it feels kind of right. Doesn't it? I mean, think about it. Hillary Clinton's been brainwashed. Well, if you have any tendency to disagree with her on anything, you're going to look for that, and confirmation bias will allow you to find it. So it's this Rorschach test that he's given the country to figure out. So instead of showing you ink blots and saying, what do you see here? He's giving you ink blots in the form of a word. He's saying, brainwashed. Look it up. When you look up brainwashed, there are a whole bunch of individual words that refer to it. So they're all in the same direction, but it gives you a bit of a wide net to allow yourself to say, oh yeah, she was brainwashed to believe that lots of immigration is a good thing. Maybe she's brainwashed to believe that we should always use the military first in the Middle East. I'm just making up stuff, but the point is, you broke your butt. Brainwashed equals wipe clean, just like an email server. Yeah, see how easy it is to do this? Brainwash is just wonderfully open-ended. Makes you seem weak, crooked brainwash monster. The CBM, crooked brainwash monster. #1 Google word. If it isn't, it will be. Brainwashed to lie. Yeah, brainwashed by whom? It's interesting. I suspect that Trump wasn't getting enough um, traction by saying that she'd been influenced by money. Because if you do the follow the money thing and you find all the times that the Clintons have done something friendly to people who have given money, there's never this direct cause and effect thing. Because when people are friends, they do things for each other. So you would expect friendly countries would do more things for Clinton, and Clinton would do more things for friendly countries, than vice versa. So if you see there's a correlation there, people look at it and they go, I don't know, it just looks like we do stuff for friendly countries and vice versa. So maybe the facts were just too boring and lawyer-like and didn't work. But when you say somebody's brainwashed, that gets you to a whole different level of fear. And fear is the thing that influences. Fear is the thing that works. And remember, Trump is doing a high-level persuasion game against somebody on the Clinton team who I've been saying for a while is a world-class influencer. So somebody who probably wasn't there in the beginning of the campaign because Clinton didn't look like she was getting good advice at first in terms of persuasion. But at this point, I think there's a world-class persuader who I've nicknamed Godzilla, working on the side of the Clinton campaign. So now you see Trump, ratcheting up his level of persuasion by hiring the persuaders who got Brexit through, and almost immediately coming out with this word brainwashed that's just sort of scary and you don't know why. It's like, really? She could be president and she might have been brainwashed? Brainwashed implies mentally weak. I hear what you're saying with that. I don't see the connection immediately but I might be biased because I think anybody can be brainwashed. So you might be right. Maybe a person who is less experienced with persuasion would think brainwash means mentally weak, but I don't pick it up that way. All right, hold on. I'm gonna plug in my stylus. Brainwash refers to stroke issue. I can see that. Oh, you know what it is? Brainwash just makes you think of her brain. Makes you think of brain injury. There it is. I think you got there with me. Okay. I don't think brainwash was meant to mean her brain was weak, mentally weak, directly, although it's a Rorschach test in words. So it works for that. I mean, if that's what you saw, that's what you saw. I just don't think most people will see that. But it would make you think of her actual physical brain, because brainwashing, you imagine something physical changed. It isn't a leap to say persuasion firm caused Brexit to pass. No, it's not, because if you saw the reason it passed, it was because a lot of people believed things that absolutely weren't true. There was something about the money going to healthcare that just wasn't true, and there was some other thing that people believed that just literally wasn't true. And that means the persuasion worked. Oh, there you go. Good one. Yeah, brainwashing. When you think of the radical jihadists, do you think that they are brainwashed? You do, because you must be brainwashed to be a suicide bomber or to believe crazy things. So now that he's called Hillary Clinton brainwashed, you're going to say to yourself, wait a minute, she's in favor of more immigration. And who's in favor of immigration? Well, those brainwashed jihadists. And she's brainwashed, you say to yourself, because Trump has now caused you to make that connection. And you say, wait a minute, there's two brainwashed people I can think of. A terrorist and Hillary Clinton. Not because she is, but because Trump used the word. And because we're talking about it. And because brain is visual. And there it is again, by the way. Remember, I've told you since the beginning that Trump always goes for the visual persuasion. If he had used the word influenced, there's no visual for that. Persuaded, no visual. Brain washed, total visual. You know what a brain looks like. You know what it looks like to wash something. You put those together, there's action, there's brains, there's washing. And guess what? Anytime that you combine things that don't belong together, you remember it. It becomes stickier. That's one of the tricks I learned from Dr. Carmen Simon, who wrote a book that you should read, by the way. It's a brand new book called Impossible to Ignore. So look it up. Or you could Google persuasion reading list, and you'll see it on a list that I created of persuasion books. Anyway, so that's a known scientific technique to combine things that don't work together to create some kind of dissonance in the viewer's mind, because that makes it stick. So if you walked down the street today and you saw thousands of people who were dressed the way people normally dress, and you saw one person who was wearing a ballerina tutu in the middle of the day just walking down the sidewalk, which one would you remember? You remember the one that stands out, the one that's different. So when I use the word brainwash, and I've combined your thought that forms immediately, really, of a physical brain, and then washing, which maybe you see a hose and a sponge, that doesn't fit with a brain, all right? So you've got this wonderful incongruity, which if I were to say to you, I bet if I said to you 5 years from now, you were there, you were watching the campaign unfold, you saw lots and lots of tweets from Donald Trump. Which ones do you remember? Chances are the brainwash tweet would be in the top 10%. And that's out of lots and lots and lots of tweets. And that's probably by design. So when you look at that kind of comment, so people have been asking me from the beginning, by the way, is Trump a natural? Does he just throw out stuff and it's just top of his mind? Or is he somehow trained in the ways of persuasion? If you only saw him do a few things, you just wouldn't know, because somebody with good instincts could get something right, quite a few times. But there's a pattern here that there's just no frickin' way that this is accidental. So he's either his own expert, which I suspect is the case. It's probably 85% true. But he probably has also professional persuasion help at this point. And maybe he's already using these Brexit persuader guys, because this looks like such, I would call it, weapons-grade persuasion. Brainwash is really good. It's as good as dark. I tweeted that earlier. I talked about dark being a word that all the Clinton surrogates used as soon as Trump finished his speech. Brainwashed can't think for themselves. Yeah, but that one, I get what you're saying, but I don't know that people think that about Clinton. I don't think it doesn't really work. It doesn't really stick, because it doesn't fit your preconceived notion of her. Because I think she's making her own decisions. I don't think anybody else thinks otherwise. Is Maui a good place for two non-optimizers? Oh, you got two non-optimizers here right now, and I got no plans today, and I got no plans tomorrow. That's just the way I like it. Brainwash isn't going to stick. Well, let me ask you this. Now that Trump has said she's brainwashed, how can the media not ask him to clarify? Is it even... I've got Procreate on the iPad. Yeah, that doesn't work any better. The problem is the pen has that lag. Are we allowed to smoke plants? You have my permission. Could Trump get the media on his side? No, that's too big a sale, even for him. Yeah, maybe it's so. Clinton has that brainwashed look where she goes, and by the way, that was not smart of me to do that in a video because that's going to come out of context pretty soon. Gary Johnson will be the buffer. He might be the fluffer, but I don't think he'll be the buffer. Rational people. No, I don't think I will do the look again. People think that they are rational and other people are not. Do you know how many people think that they are rational and other people are not? That the problem is sort of other people. Sure, other people might know things you don't know, and other people, they might have their skills, but basically you think you're the rational one in the world and everybody else is, a bit crazy. Trouble is, all 6 billion people think that. And if you still think that, knowing that the other 6 billion think that, you can't really claim you're rational. Yeah, I think that short circuit thing has some legs along with brainwashed, because he's literally selling, and by the way, did anybody predict this before? He's selling a health problem. Oh my God, that's where he's going. He's going health problem, because that's where she went. She went to health problem with Trump, in his case, mental health. Oh my God, that's what it is. So here's the progression in case you joined us late in the election cycle. So early on, Clinton was talking policies and experience and all the things she's done and will do, and Obama was great and continuing the legacy, all very rational stuff. Meanwhile, Trump was scaring the pants off of people, saying that the immigrants are coming for you and whatnot. Fear is a real good persuasion. It works really well. And it was better than rational debate and experience and all those things. And so Trump, unexpectedly, at different parts of the spring, is drawn even with Clinton in a general election polling. So if you're Clinton, you're thinking to yourself, uh-oh, my message isn't really working against the fear message. So at some point, and I assume that this was with the benefit of new and or better world-class persuasion help, Clinton decided to go to a higher level of fear than Trump had. So Trump said, be afraid of these people coming in, be afraid of people crossing the border, be afraid of losing jobs, be afraid of the economy, go in the wrong direction. Those were good fears, and people responded to them. But Clinton came in with a higher level fear, and she quite brilliantly laid a confirmation bias trap by saying that Trump was erratic and crazy and impulsive and thin-skinned and all these great things that sort of work together to paint a picture of a person who is individually the scariest person. Now, of course, it's a confirmation bias trap. This is why it's so well designed, because you knew that Trump would, say something about a baby or say something about a Muslim or say something, outrageous. And of course he did. Now, none of the things he said actually were bad if you were looking at it objectively, but nobody looks at anything objectively. You could count on that. That's the one thing you know for sure. People don't look at things objectively. So his comments about a baby, even though everyone on this Periscope and everyone in the world agrees with him that babies that are crying at rallies need to go, and all he did was be honest about it. And what did people get mad about? Him being completely normal and agreeing with every person in the world and acting in an honest manner in front of people. People interpreted that as literally crazy, thin-skinned, irrational, Hitler-like behavior to hate a baby. That's how people interpreted that. And yet 100% of the world agree with him. And all he did was act in a mildly honest manner for about a minute. So the confirmation bias trap is brilliant and works really well, and is no doubt the work of some highly skilled persuader on the Clinton side. Godzilla is who I think it is. So, but now Trump had to respond because Clinton had the advantage in the persuasion wars. So what does Trump do? He comes out with brainwashed. Crooked would only get him so far. He probably squeezed everything he could get out of the crooked lemon. You know, that lemon's all dry now. It's like everybody who's going to be persuaded by crooked already believes it. All right, new people probably aren't going to go to the other side. So he's got to come up with something new and something scarier than Trump's own craziness. And that's pretty scary because Clinton's made it that way. You know, she's sold it. He's irrational. He's thin-skinned. He's yelling at babies for God's sakes, and she sold that. It's working. So how do you get scarier than that? Well, apparently Trump's solution we see begin to unfold today is that he's going to paint a picture that her brain, her actual physical brain, is damaged. And that she's short-circuiting and she's brainwashed. And, hey, she did have some kind of did she have a concussion or was it a stroke? And, hey, when she acts in this erratic manner, or she's tired, or she's grumpy, or she bats her eyes, or she howls like a dog because it's just fun and she's having a good time. And any of these things which, if you had not primed somebody to see them in a certain way, if you had not prepared your persuasion by having set the environment, as you will, set the table, if, as Trump says, if you hadn't set people to be triggered by the organic problem in her brain idea, none of those things would look like anything. Because we're not doctors. So if she has a tic or she's tired one day, you just say people have tics, people get tired. If she forgets something, you say people forget things. It's a long campaign. You would forgive every one of these small, gaffes, these memory lapses, these strange mannerisms, these tics. You would forget every one of them, or you wouldn't even notice them, except that Trump has now framed them for you. And how has he framed them? Short circuit and brainwashed. Now you're going to see that her brain is literally defective because of some organic reason. That doesn't mean that's true, by the way. I'm just talking purely persuasion here. It is easy for you to see her brain as actually organically defective because you're going to be bombarded with confirmation bias evidence. And by evidence, I mean not really. It'll be just things you interpret as evidence. For example, the next time you see her tired, you're going to say, is that a regular tired? Or is that the tired you get because you had a stroke that time? And I don't even know if tired is a symptom of stroke or a symptom of any kind of a brain injury. Is it? I mean, it might be. I mean, I think it is immediately, but it might not be in the long run. Crazy cat lady. That's funny. Fatigue. Is fatigue a symptom? Because anybody's going to look tired over the course of a campaign. So it is interesting. I mean, that's pretty good. Persuasion-wise, right? So, and then we've got that video of her crazy laugh, the and the time she did the thing with her head that I'm not going to do, and then she, barked like a dog and all that stuff. And although none of that individually means anything, and we're not doctors, and we have no reason to think that we could diagnose a mental illness from watching some videos, edited together, but your brain is still going to think that's the case. So your common sense, your rational thinking, they are not. Please do it. They are not. I should do it just because it would be viral. Uh, she's the meanest person you ever met. Have you met her? It would be fun. I wonder if meanness would work. Trump is saying short-circuited because he doesn't want to say that she's got brain damage from a stroke. And since Clinton herself used the word, it creates in a lawyer-like manner, it opens the door for him to ask questions on that line of inquiry, if you know what I mean. Yeah, she used the phrase about herself, saying that she got something wrong, her brain short-circuited. She was saying it whimsically, but once said, he can take it out of context as he has. She's a robot with no heart. Oh my God! So let me suggest a let me suggest a tact. Have you ever seen Hillary Clinton cry? We're just running through an idea for a line of persuasion. If you were Donald Trump, that might work. So there's an empathy gap. That is to say, you think both of them are capable in their own ways. You may have problems with both of them, but generally speaking, these are two capable people who got where they are because they're capable people. What you wonder about is their empathy. All right? Who cares more about you? That's what you care about, right? Now you're thinking about who cares more about the country, and you do care about that too, but mostly you care about how do they care about people who are like me, right? So right now, Clinton has the empathy gap. Part of it is, I think women just have a natural advantage probably because we're biased that way. You see her as more empathetic, just sort of automatically. You're biased that way. And she's also a liberal, and she's got liberal policies, and she's a Democrat. So you associate all that with higher empathy. And I don't know that anybody's studied empathy. I don't know that there's any data that would say Republicans have less of it, or that conservatives have less of it. My understanding, having, straddled both sides without taking a side, is that both sides think they have a different way to get to empathy. In other words, they both want what's best for people and for themselves. They just have a different concept of how you get there. That has allowed Democrats to say Republicans have less empathy. But I think the case could be made the other way, only in this situation. If you ask me, does President Obama have empathy? I would say he kind of looks like he does, meaning the way he holds himself, the way he talks, the way his eyes express his body language, the shake in his voice, the clear emotion he has when there's a tragedy and he's talking about it. I think there's no doubt that either he's a tremendous actor, which is not my first most likely hypothesis. The other is that he actually has empathy. People do, right? Maybe that's why he's in his job, in part. But if I said to you, does Hillary Clinton have the same level of empathy as President Obama, what would you say? I would say visually and optics-wise and based on history, it's hard to see it, right? Now, if I said to you that, for those of you who are old enough to remember it, or if you've even seen video of it, JFK, John Kennedy, did he look like he had empathy for people? The answer is, yeah, he actually did. Here's another one. This might surprise you. Bush, well, both of them. So Bush the elder, he was a hard-ass Republican, but if you looked at his face, you looked at the way he talked about people, did you think he had empathy? And he kind of did. I mean, I think so. No matter what you thought of his policies or, how he did things, you did think he was an empathetic human being. And then his son, Bush II, you could hate everything he did. You could say, he was a bad president. But when he spoke and talked to people, did his face and his image look like he had empathy? I think he did. I would say he did, no matter what you thought of his job or his policies or Republicans in general. As a human, putting forward a look. Ronald Reagan, empathy, right? Bill Clinton, empathy, lots of it, all right? Super empathy. In fact, the definition of charisma, if you don't know that, is this is a semi-scientific definition of charisma I read somewhere, so you can do with that what you want. But I've heard it defined as the combination of power and empathy. And here's why that's important. And here's why we register that as charisma. And charisma is kind of leadership, right? They're very related. If somebody has power and they don't have empathy, you're afraid of them. And that's the story that the Clinton side has made about Trump. You don't want to give him more power than he already has because you're not sure he has empathy. That's, even though he says he does, and even though, he's created policies that are designed, he says, to do what's best for the United States, his empathy seems limited to America, right? So he's selling you a brand where his empathy is limited. I'm limiting my empathy primarily to America. So that's it's a clear message, and whether you love it or hate it, you have to appreciate the clarity of it, right? If you're American, you're A+. I'll put the United States on your side to keep you safe. If you're not American, and that's most of the world, we can't take care of all of you. So that's an empathy message that you hear from dad, not mom, right? Mom might care about everybody, but dad says, all right, I'm taking care of the family, and I'll take care of anybody else that I can that's close to me. But after that, you guys are on your own. I can only do what I can do. That's Trump's kind of dad empathy. So getting back to charisma, I said it's a combination of power plus empathy. If somebody has power and they have empathy, you say, I want that person on my side. They're going to use their power for something that's at least not bad for me. It might be good for me because they're empathetic. But imagine Clinton in the White House with what you feel about her empathy. It's the same argument as Trump, right? If you're afraid that Trump doesn't care about you, you don't want him to have a lot of power. Now imagine Clinton in the White House. What does she care about the most? Well, if you look at where she's spent her energy, most of it's in making money. All right. So what she's done a lot of is get a lot of suspicious-looking people to give her money through speaking fees and Clinton Foundation. And while I personally don't have any evidence that she has done anything wrong in any of those cases, so that's not the case I'm making, I'm saying there's tons of confirmation bias fodder to make it look that way. It looks like she's done nothing to help anybody except herself. And I think Trump could make the argument that she's not you could probably make the sociopath argument as effectively, maybe even more effectively than she's making it, because she has the disadvantage of being a woman who doesn't look like she has a lot of empathy, even if she does, right? So I'm not telling you that I know what's in her heart or her mind. I'm telling you that if you just look at her, the face she puts forward, the level of expressiveness, which frankly may be Botoxed away. It could be that she's got plenty of empathy. It's just her eyes are not going to put it across. So she speaks in a somewhat cold manner, and she's got a history of doing some, hard-ass stuff. I mean, just being Secretary of State is sort of a badass job, and she's got a badass, reputation. And she was part of the badasses that took down Osama bin Laden and laughed about it. So there's a pretty good argument that she doesn't have a human heart. Trump, on the other hand, has a number of stories in his past, anecdotal, of doing things for people that he didn't need to do, that were driven by, you could argue some of it was driven by PR instinct, but I think I think a lot of it is genuine. And here's why I think a lot of it is genuine. I'm going to tell you something about New York people. All right? If you're from anywhere else, this may apply to your culture and your people as well. But if you're raised a Presbyterian or a Methodist somewhere in New York at about the time that Trump grew up, you do things for people because you can. You be useful because you can. And that's sort of an upstate New York brand of empathy. It's the one that, I also share, which is I wake up every day and I try to do something to make the world better. But if I've already made the money that I need. I don't need to make money for myself. So the only reason I work is that I can create a lot of economic activity that will benefit a lot of people, and I can be useful. I can put my reputation or brand behind something if it's worth it. Now, a lot of it is just having fun, so I don't want to deny that part, but I'm primarily driven by being useful. But it doesn't look it, right? If you were to look at my email or my Twitter feeds, almost every day I'm being accused of being some horrible monster by someone, and that's because that's what a New York brand of usefulness looks like. I'm not terribly concerned about the people who don't like me because they don't affect me, but I'm very concerned about the people that I could directly help because that's sort of what motivates me. So I do have a New York, raised in a Methodist family at about, not too long after Trump in that area, concept of empathy. It's just what you're doing. If you're doing something useful, you have empathy. If you're not doing something useful, you don't. It's not in your eyes. It's not in your words. It's not in the gentle way you said things. It's not the baby you kissed. It's just, what the fuck are you doing for the world? All right? Trump has put himself in this situation where, we saw the stories that his revenues are dropping in his properties. This could literally drive him into poverty, if it gets any worse. He's been compared to Hitler. No matter what happens, win or lose, 40% of the world is going to want him dead. 40% of the United States anyway, because that's just the way it works. The losing team is just going to be really unhappy. So very few people put themselves through that for their own, self-aggrandizement, if that's what you think it was. My reading of Trump is that he's doing what people raised in his religious background in his part of the world, because I was. It's the way they express empathy. And the way they do it is to try to do something useful. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'll bet this is true of him. You try, and it's probably true of everybody, really. If you're going to be useful, you try to pick the thing where you're uniquely suited. And he is uniquely suited to say, hey, I think there's this threat with too much immigration. And here I'm not giving you my personal opinion. I'm just saying what makes sense as an observer. He's saying, here's this problem that I see, meaning Trump, with immigration, and it could be deadly, and it could be super bad, and we're a little bit brainwashed into thinking it won't be. Normal politicians can't really say what he can say. So he's in this unique position to sacrifice his personality, not his personality, his brand, his reputation, and possibly his life. I mean, there's lots of death threats, to do something useful and to do something that no one else can do. Because if someone else could do it, they'd probably be doing it. What Trump is saying is something that only someone like Ann Coulter can say, if you think about it. But she wasn't really in a position to run for office. But she can say it because her brand allows her to do that, and that's exactly how she makes her money. But for a politician to say what Trump is saying, which is, hey, let's close the borders and do things that people are going to call racist, even if that's not what's in your heart. So even if you're doing it in a sense of empathy, it will be perceived as racist. Clearly, Trump knew that from the start. He just said, evidently, it was worth it. Now, you think he said it because you think it would be good for him. I'm here to tell you that he already has everything he wants. And if he's doing something, it's probably for someone else at this point. Have you ever felt suicidal? Of course. I imagine Trump getting in the Oval Office and caring about taxes of citizens. And the kitchen sinks. You are so right. About everything, I hope you mean. About absolutely everything. He could just sit on his money and bang his hot wife. But you know what else he could do? He could sit on his wife and bang his money. It wouldn't feel as good, but, most of us can't do that. Now, keep in mind, there's another interpretation for all of this, and it's the Clinton interpretation, which is that he's actually thin-skinned and crazy. And I swear to God, everything that's ever been said about Trump has been said about me, and 10 times over. But I have a unique perspective, because I'm the only one who's me. And I know how much empathy I do or don't have, and I know when I'm kidding, and you don't. I know when I say things for the effect and for persuasion, and when I know I'm trying to, get somebody wound up, and I may or may not have a reason for that. I'm the only one who knows. So it's impossible to know what's in Trump's brain. Yeah, he is sacrificing. Try to imagine yourself in this situation. You're 70 years old. You have everything you want, right? If he wanted to still get lots of attention, he could do lots of other things. He could have done a lot of other things. Why would you do this if you didn't think you could actually be useful? It just doesn't make any sense. Power. Do people do that at 70? Name. Actually, let me put this question out there. I said that like I knew the answer, but I actually don't. Can anybody name a 70-year-old who suddenly got aggressive about conquering the world, starting at 69? I suppose he's been trying for years, but when was the last time a 70-year-old who didn't have a history of abuse got in power? Well, Hitler. That's funny, I thought of Colonel Sanders too. But even something tells me Colonel Sanders didn't do much of the work, though. Moving from northern PA to California? Well, I would not make that recommendation without knowing more about you. Narcissist populist even compute? Yeah, right. If it's all for him, how could it be all for the people at the same time? That is the funny thing about it. Yeah. Do you know the murder rate of 70-year-old men? Do you know the number of 70-year-olds who commit a crime that sends them to get to jail? Almost none. If somebody hasn't done it by now, they don't start at 70. It's like, hey, I think I'll get myself a new hobby at 70. That's not going to happen. Ego. You know, all those things are wrapped into everybody's decision. And I'm a big proponent of the fact that there's no such thing as a one variable world. So anything he does is going to be for lots of reasons, not one or two or three. So certainly his family name, ego, those are all in there. But I got to think those are the lesser parts. If he didn't want to fix things at this point, I don't think he'd been it. Yeah, you don't really run for president until you've achieved narcissism. I think Dr. Drew said the same thing. Madoff was 78 when he started turning bad. Yeah, here's my challenge to you. Name the 70-year-old leader who started a war. Go. Name any leader of any country over 70 who started a war. Go. Stalin? When he was over 70? I don't think so. Go ahead. Anybody over 70? Over 70? I don't think so. Stalin. I'm going to need some stats on that, because I thought Stalin was probably more like in his 50s and 60s when he was starting wars. Wait, what wars did Stalin start? Didn't he finish wars? I think Stalin was more of a finisher. I mean, he killed a lot of people, but which ones did he start? You're defending this nut. See, that's what brainwash looks like. If you think you know he's a nut, and you've watched someone like Dr. Drew Pensky, who was just on CNN, being asked that question, is he a nut? And Dr. Drew, with all of his experience with nuts, said the evidence isn't there. So the expert says the evidence isn't there. But you come onto this Periscope and say it confidently in public, like it's just sort of obvious. That, my friend, is brainwashing. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not telling you that Trump isn't crazy, because I don't know, and that's the difference. That's why I know I'm not brainwashed, because I don't have data, and therefore I haven't made a decision, or I don't have sufficient data. And if Dr. Drew doesn't have sufficient data by watching the public Trump, how the hell do I, right? But you do. You, viewer, are so smart that you know that Trump is literally crazy, because remember that time he yelled at a baby? And remember that time he said something that sounded so crazy a few months ago, but then a few things blew up, and a few terrorists did some things, and now it doesn't seem so crazy, and I guess he really was talking about countries, not religions, and religions aren't race anyway, and you, my friend, have been deeply brainwashed by Godzilla. He apologized for sharing his assessment because it didn't match CNN. That didn't happen. We're all slightly crazy. Stalin invaded Eastern Europe when he was 70. Really? He was 70 then. I don't remember, well, how old was he when he died? Because I don't remember him even being in his 70s. But I guess I wasn't paying attention. So he died at 74, or he invaded at 74? Which was it? Died? The history of mass murders his whole life. Yeah, there you go. So my point is that Stalin was a murderer the whole time. He just didn't become. So the way I asked the question, you correctly debunked it, which is that there was somebody over 70 who invaded a country, but that exception sort of proves my point because he was a murderous person his whole life. So he just continued the way it was. So my question about Trump is, in what universe has there been a person with a history of nonviolence become violent at age 70? Had he persuaded the youth to not be socialists? I don't think I would, because I think we should actually be looking at getting some universal health care and universal college. I just don't think we should do it by raising taxes. I just think we have to do it by being smarter. So I think there should be something called a smart socialist, meaning someone who wants to get there, but doesn't want to do it by just raising your taxes. Because that would be me. I would like to get to all those places by redesigning how we do them. I'd like a better way to educate. Might be online, might be some other way. And I would like to see a bigger effort to drive down healthcare costs through things like big data and more online, make it legal to do more online diagnoses without getting sued for getting it wrong. There are probably a whole bunch of things you could do to drive the cost of healthcare way down to the point where everybody could have it. Why am I so pro-college? I'm not pro-college. I'm pro-college for some people. I think too many people are going to college, but it has to do with the fact that the alternatives are not as robust as they could or should be. I think people who are not really, I don't want to say they're not college material, but rather that there are people who probably won't benefit from college. They should have better alternatives. You love college, admit it. College was good for me, but I'm the personality type that it would be good for. Schumpeter, my friend. Corporatism. People look down on trade school. Yeah, I'm not suggesting trade school. Let me give you my idea for education. Suppose, so a lot of you watching this have probably read at least some of my writing, my blogging about persuasion. I put together a persuasion reading list. If you just Google those terms, persuasion reading list, you'll see my list. And it was a very quick take, and I plan to refine that as time goes by, on books that if you read them, you would be very informed on a very important, very useful topic that would help your whole life. So if I knew that somebody had read all of those books, I would very likely have a high opinion of their ability to be effective. So if I were an employer, I wouldn't care so much what the degree said, if it was some degree from some small college I'd never heard of, and really it was just a place to go to drink beer and get laid. I'm not going to be terribly impressed if somebody got a BA in whatever. But if somebody read the entire persuasion reading list, I guarantee you those are more effective than people who haven't, all things being equal. So you can imagine, for example, let's say Bill Gates putting together a logic reading list. So it'd be a bunch of books that Bill Gates says you should read to understand how to think. And I'm just picking Bill Gates because people generally think he's smart, right? So he'd be a good brand to put on that. So you read all of the books he recommends, and maybe there are 15 of them or whatever, and then you somehow get certified. You know that. And I think everybody needs to learn the basics. The reading and writing and communicating, and you should know some history and psychology and sociology. So there are probably some things about college that are necessary. But my experience is colleges are just set up to teach inefficiently, and you could learn most of what you need to learn far quicker, far easier, if people were putting that material together in better presentations. So in a few weeks, you people are going to see something that my startup can do that will be directly applicable to this, directly applicable to the idea of individuals branding effectively a college class by selecting books that if you read this collection of books, you would have good knowledge in this area. Now, there are tons of things that you can't learn that way. There's some things I think you need an instructor explaining them to you, and you probably need to do some homework and stuff like that. But with persuasion, I think reading the books gets you pretty close. And I think there are other things like that. Take personal finance. I think someone could put a list together of how to invest. That would be the starter set of personal finance, that if you read it, you would be good at managing your money. And it wouldn't be nearly as hard as college. And if anybody had read that set of books, you would assume that they were smarter than other people on that area. The basics, yes. The basics are about all that matters in personal finance. All right. I probably shouldn't be talking on this all day. But I'm going to go now and do something else. I'm not sure what yet. Well, I think I'll draw some comics. Periscope is shadow banning you. This is not listed right now in live periscopes. How is that possible? Can somebody confirm that? Can you see if the live periscopes show me on here or not? The Most Important Thing by Howard Marks. What's the topic? They're censoring you. I wonder if it's because I use a profanity. Oh, it's for finance? We'd have to sign out, so hang on. All right, you show live. That's all I need, right? If I show live, then I'm not being shadow banned. It's live, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't think I was being shadow banned. I think a lot of times when people say I've been shadow banned on Twitter, it's just because they're looking in the refrigerator and they can't find the mustard that's right in front of them. Yeah, SAS for Dilbert Fodder. Somebody's saying it's not listed, but someone's saying it is. I think someone's just looking in the wrong place, because if it's, you can't be found without a link. Oh, not on map due to location off. Oh. Okay, I'm listed, but I'm not on the map. But I follow you. Well, maybe it's only listed for people who follow me. Interesting. Well, maybe next time I'll turn on the map and see if that makes a difference. All right, gotta go. Not on in map. Well, I'm not in California. That would be the problem. Check me in Hawaii. See if I'm on the map in Hawaii. If you're looking in California, you're looking in the... So it's in Hawaii, right? Are you confirming that it's in Hawaii? Yes? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.